Tell us about how this deal happened and the questions that it leaves.
Well, it took up until really the very last moment. We barely averted a shutdown before the deadline of midnight Saturday here in the U.S. But indeed, they were able to scramble together this deal that will fund the government, as you said, until November 17th, when we might have this fight all over again. Essentially, what this deal means is that the status quo will stay in terms of spending until that date. This deal did not include any spending cuts that conservatives were really looking for. What it did include was $16 billion in disaster aid, given a lot of the natural disasters we have seen here in the U.S., from the flooding recently in New York to the wildfires in Mali. But it did not include any support for Ukraine, additional funding for the war in Ukraine. That really had been a sticking point among many Republicans. Many hardline right members in the House in particular had opposed any measure that would include more Ukraine funding. There were others in the Senate as well, like Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, who didn't want to see Ukraine funding included in this package. That leaves a little bit of a difficulty for the Biden administration, which has requested billions more from Congress in order to fund that war Ukraine is fighting against Russia. President Biden, while he has said this deal is a good thing for the U.S., it avoids a shutdown and the furloughing of hundreds of thousands of federal workers, he is pushing Speaker McCarthy to pass Ukraine funding in a separate measure. It's unclear exactly when that might happen. And of course, McCarthy's future itself is very much in question here, considering conservatives did not get some of the things we were looking for, or they were looking for. As I said, spending cuts not included in this package, and more border measures were not included either.
Yeah, and we're seeing already some moves coming from hardline Republicans in the House to remove him from the speakership, right? How big of a risk is this?
Well, this is something that has been threatened for a very long time, specifically from one individual, Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida. He had said repeatedly that he would file a motion to vacate the speaker. Any one individual can do this under the agreement that McCarthy agreed to with several of these conservative members in the House in order to become speaker in the first place. And Gaetz says he will do this within the next week. It would, though, require a majority in the House of Representatives. And it's unclear right now if McCarthy would be able to survive that vote. In theory, you would need all of the Democrats, or at least some of the Democrats in the party, to join with some of these Republican members like Gaetz and a few others who want to see Speaker McCarthy ousted. And at this time, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, has not indicated whether Democrats may support McCarthy, though several Democratic members of Congress I spoke to within the last week did suggest if McCarthy worked with Democrats in a bipartisan measure to keep the government open, which happened, they could see Democrats maybe just voting present in a motion to vacate vote to allow the speaker to stay in his job. When Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut, a Democrat, told me last week the Democrats would choose chaos over, would not choose chaos. Instead, they would maybe help McCarthy stay in the job.